Hi, Steph.
Hi, how are you?
I'm not bad. I'm good, thanks.
Good.
I've got Steph here today from Scottish Athletics, and Steph has been supporting clubs over the past period of time to embed the changing lives approach. So, learning how to use sport in an intentional way to drive change for people and communities. So today, Steph and I wanted to talk to you a little bit and share a little bit about some of the myths that there might be around this approach when it comes to driving change, but particularly with clubs, but other parts of the sporting system as well. And Steph, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, what has surprised you about this work?
So I think for me the biggest surprise has been the the culture within the athletics clubs that I'm working with specifically, but also the kind of wider clubs. They're genuinely keen to understand how they can implement the change in lives work. Some of them have already been doing it, but for those who haven't, I've only been invited into spaces to for some curious questions and some understanding on how myself and my team can actually help clubs understand their role in a wider context, in that sort of social impact context of we recognise our situation within our communities. Actually, how can we help further than just the sport? I feel like the physical health part of it. So yeah, that was a really nice surprise when I came in. It was a lovely culture to come into, which sometimes can get lost in sport because quite often we think about it as a competitive um, sort of hobby or
Yeah.
lifestyle, but that's not been the case here. It's been really lovely. People are genuinely um, kind of chewing my ear off for me to come and help their clubs or just even just speak to us about their plans. And it's been a really nice last however long it's been now to engage with those clubs and see how we can help them in small spaces. Yeah, that's probably been the biggest surprise for me.
That's brilliant as well, and that will probably, I would hope, encourage people that maybe haven't started this work yet to
Yeah.
know that that's certainly based on your experience. People have been really open and keen to be engaged in it,
Yeah.
and then obviously you've been working alongside those clubs quite intensively to support them. And I wondered if you could just tell me about the key myths that you think there might be that you wanted to sort of bust, I suppose, for people around working with those clubs. So the three key myths or misunderstandings.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting way to kind of put it down. And I think with anything new, we don't like change. Like I think just as humans, we're not sometimes well adapted to change. And I think when we think about the changing lives approach or anything above the sort of traditional system or the traditional what would you say their priorities within a club space, I think people can get and feel quite overwhelmed with a new concept like changing lives, and which is perfectly understandable. It is quite a juxtaposition to where we've naturally sat as a sporting system for a long time. Um, but I think one of the things that's been helpful for the clubs that I've been working with, and certainly even on my own changing lives journey, as we don't have to do everything all at the same time. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of new and creative ways that we can move into these spaces or we can introduce other communities or other people into our spaces, but we don't have to do everything for everyone. We need to start small, and that's actually probably where the most successful sort of behavior change and culture change comes in because it becomes sustainable for everybody. I think as sports people, and I've been a sports person for as long as I can remember, not competitive, but always been involved in something. We want things done yesterday. We're quite like, okay, that's a great idea, let's go. But with the change in lives work, the intentionality behind it's much more important than how much you can get done, how quickly. Um, we want everybody in the system to have a positive experience, including the people that are trying to implement change. And quite often, positive experiences and quick wins don't align. So and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to move in a way that is slower than maybe our
Yeah.
systems used to going.
Yeah.
It's so
I think
much more
that's
fruitful.
I think that's a really good one. So that the number one then is about recognizing that it doesn't all have to change overnight. We don't have to do it all at once, and it
Yeah,
won't necessarily look like some of the other change work that you might deliver. That's brilliant.
exactly.
One of the other things that you've talked to me about is connecting with people about the fact that they are probably doing this already to some extent.
Yeah.
So you've talked about the idea that there's a perception, maybe when you get involved with this with clubs, there's a myth there that this works very different to what they do already. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So yeah, quite a few of our clubs have areas within their, I'll take their membership category for an example. A lot of our clubs have options for memberships, recognizing that affordability can be a barrier for anybody within their community. They have, most of them have termed it as a hardship fund. Now, that's technically changing lives work in the sense that they're recognizing that there are people within communities that is a barrier for, so they've created an option and a system for it. The really good thing, and it goes back to my earlier point about being in a culture, I've challenged the words of that. The hardship fund, we all know that doesn't give us positive connotations. We are proud people. Nobody really wants to admit that they are struggling and that might be a barrier. So the one thing that I've hopefully influenced some of our clubs is just to change the wording of it. And that was actually from another club that has called it something completely different. They've just termed it access in our club. And it's just within that within those categories, one of them being, if membership is a barrier for you, please talk to us. We have options. It's not termed as a completely separate membership category, which has been lovely to be able to connect clubs and be like, they're already doing it, so that means you could probably do it, and pushing it into that space. So yeah, it's like that work. And then a couple of our clubs, or one of our clubs specifically, the way I look at what they're doing is see the Scottish Government's baby box initiative, where every pregnant like family they do that for their club members. Any new club member, they all get the same kit. It gets refreshed every 2 years. And it's just become part of the culture. You don't get asked a question if you need it. Everybody just takes it, and that's it. And to us, that's like a change in lives. Again, they're in an area of high deprivation. They've recognised that potentially could be a barrier for kit, and they've put a system in place for it. So yeah, that sort of stuff's already happening. It's maybe just not, it's not through a change in lives intentional lens. They've just been responsive, or not just, they've been responsive to the needs of their community and implemented systems to support the community.
I think what's great I think what's great about recognizing that is you can build on that. They can almost come from a place of confidence, because this is something, it's just we're going to do it in a different way. So we're going to build on those approaches and add to it, and make it more intentional, as you say. The third thing you've talked to me a bit about is, which a lot of people probably will be familiar with, but we often have this perception that for clubs, that they would be looking at this and saying, well, this is sort of getting in the way or replaces performance and so on.
Yeah.
So I know one of the myths that you've talked about is around that, and about trying to change that so that people can see the benefits. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you've looked at that, Steph?
Yeah. So this was one of the first points I brought up on my changing lives journey when I went on the course officially. Because like some of our clubs, I've been doing the changing lives, my own version before, and then I went on it and it was amazing. So quite a lot of people, like you've just said, think that community and performance are the opposite ends of a scale, like a linear scale. The way I like to look at it is it's a circular system. If I'm out and my team are out and people like who have our focus and priorities are doing their work really well, and we support our performance pathway, our teams, to learn about the stuff that we're learning about to support incoming athletes, If we do our job right and they do their job right, it becomes a circular system. It becomes, we naturally bring people in at a community level who then progress through an existing pathway of performance with some tweaks of learning and education if it's necessary. They become performance athletes. They represent Scotland at a world stage, at the international stage. They're winning medals for us. They become natural role models for a larger population of Scotland. So we don't have to pluck people out and be like, you're going to be this person for us because you have some sort of diversity character. We don't like that. That's not sustainable. We don't want to tokenize people. So actually, if I do my work really well in community and I help our performance team learn about anything that I'm learning about, and vice versa, when they get to the performance pathway, if there's things that we're learning about up here in performance that can then be relayed back to the community team to consider at the start of the journey of new performance athletes, we're literally just getting to a space where we're sharing learning and information with each other. And I think that's incredible. I think that's absolutely amazing. I feel like that could be a really lovely success of having more priority and more resource and capacity in communities, that we're actually creating more opportunities for more people to be on that sort of world stage, Olympic, Paralympic, and it doesn't even have to be that, but just to be in that competitive space. And like I said before, my passion isn't competition. I've never done competition. I don't know the first thing about it. But if we work really well together, there's nothing to say that we're not actually feeding each other's spaces. If people see more people like them doing something, they're more likely to get involved. That's human nature. So yeah, I see it more as, sorry, say again, like a circular, other than a versus community versus performance. That's not how it works. I don't think that's how it would actually work in real life. So you're opening up that capacity, you're bringing more people into your sport, into your club, which means you could potentially have more volunteers, more coaches, more athletes, more of everything, and then use that to support those who want to go into that performance space, and thus just going round and round and round.
Yeah, bigger and greater.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today and to share that learning. We do also have a second podcast together, so I will make sure we put details on this as well, to link those two up as well. But thanks so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you for having me on. It was really enjoyable.
Good.